let's real briefly run through some other things. The couple of things I wanted to talk about will take me no time at all.
Okay.
So, what do you want to do?
Mine will be slightly meatier.
Sure.
Okay, so I read two things. I read Aliens Dead Orbit, which is by James Stokey, not sure. I think it's Stoko.
That looks like Stoko.
I've heard a lot of people pronounce it differently. I'm a huge fan of James Stoko. He did Godzilla Half-Century War, which is the greatest Godzilla thing ever made. He also did a comic called Orkstain that's quite good. This is just him. He just shows up and does whatever he wants. I don't know what his day job is, but he must have one, because he just shows up and does whatever he wants. And it doesn't work for like 2 years.
Interesting.
And he's not even like a covers guy. Like, he's done some covers, but it's not like, oh yes, that's where he's making his money, he's doing covers. So I don't know what he does in his off time. But he decided to show up and do an Aliens comic. A fun game to play with James Stoko is, like, what property should he do next? Because he mostly just jumps around properties now. I really want him to do the thing.
Has he ever done any Terminator?
No, he should do that too. So this...
I looked at his art and just immediately was like, well, that looks like Terminator.
This is... First of all, it's astounding. It's just a gore... It's just gory. It is gory. It's a glorious book. I really like his art. It's kind of an acquired taste. It works amazingly with Alien when you get to like some of the and he also he draws machinery really well, and like it's just the artwork is astounding. His humans are an acquired taste. I could see people complaining about his humans, but like
it's got maybe a little bit of that Weapon X thing going on.
Yeah. I could definitely see that being an inspiration. Also, one of the coolest special features I've ever seen in a trade, in the back, is pages, some of them colored, for an Alien book he didn't make. He said, I pitched this book, and I ended up doing... Or I pitched one book, and I ended up doing this book. The book he pitched also needs to get made. So what he
Did they
pitched,
just not like it, or did he abandon
just went a
it?
different way.
That's funny.
He pitched a book that's very, very much in the vein of Aliens. This is called Aliens. This is an Alien book. Although...
There's a difference.
I'm not sure if it's a joke, but there are 2 aliens in this to justify the Aliens title.
That's awesome.
This is a masterclass in storytelling visually.
Oh, wow.
It moves between time periods just completely masterfully. I'm never lost. I'm never confused as to what's going on. You don't need to read this. And also, the ending is the first couple of pages of the book. Like, it opens and you know how the story ends.
Oh, interesting.
And then it jumps back, and then it kind of jumps forward a little bit, and like, it jumps around a bit, and there's never any... Like, the most you get is right at the beginning. When it jumps back, it says before. And we never get another cue, and I'm never lost. Mostly just paying attention. Like, this character's dead, and now they're here. This must be before they died, and things like that.
Okay.
It's a very quick read if you want it to be. It's one of those, right? It's a very quick read if you want it to be. It's a very long read if you want it to be. It's great. If you like Alien, you should read this. This is a really good Alien comic. Specifically Alien. Like, the tone and feel of that, that's this. It's one of those, like, just more of that kind of a thing. Where, like, if you like Alien and you want some more of that, you're not going to get in any of the sequels, except for maybe 3, but kind of not. You can read this, and it's more of Alien. It's really good. I highly recommend this if you like Alien. And also, if you like Stoko's art, it's a must-buy. I recommend everything Stoko's ever done artistically. He's just a really good artist. Do you want to jump over?
Is there an android in that?
No. I don't think there is.
So my question with Alien Stories is, I'm like, okay, is there an android? And are we gonna find some way to do something new with the androids?
No, because he doesn't care about that. Like, he very clearly just cares about the alien and the horror and we get some cool not new stuff, but like,
is it like a good
what the alien does to
story,
people,
or is it kind of more of a good horror comic, or?
It's a good horror comic. Everything that would make it a good science fiction story is inherent in the alien premise.
Okay, so he's not adding anything to it.
He's not adding anything to it. He's just telling a really good haunted house story, right?
Okay.
Like,
but it's not like a big idea story.
No, it's just...
And it doesn't have to be that. I was just
It's
curious.
just a well-told, simple horror alien story.
Sure, yeah.
It's really good. You should read it. If you like Alien, you should read it. All right, so you want me to do my next one, or do you want to do and then jump back and forth?
I'll do one, and we can jump back and forth. So, I don't have a ton to say about this.
I'm curious about this.
Yeah, well, I'll be as interesting as I can. So this is the first 4 issues of the new Sonic the Hedgehog comic for IDW. And when I say new, it's new because IDW is publishing it and because it says #1 on the first issue. It is not new in the sense that it is anything different from what you would be getting if it does not feel like that.
Interesting.
But it's hard to tell if we're going to be rebooting after this, because I thought that's what I had read, that it was like we do 4 issues to kind of wrap up Archie, and then we go into a reboot. It doesn't feel like that's what we're doing.
I thought this was
maybe
the reboot
kind of soft
book.
rebooty-esque. Nah, it's more just I mean, like, unless I were to go back and read what we were left with, because it didn't end. With what was going on at Archie, and it's completely disconnected from this, and then you get into this, and it's you know, it's acting like it's connected to things that have happened before, but it's, you know, it's kind of in medias res, but it's you know, its own thing. I'm honestly not totally sure, because whenever I look at Ian Flynn stuff, it's always good, but it's also all kind of the same. And, like, I'm not even complaining when I say that. It's just you always know what you're getting with Sonic the Hedgehog. Nobody's going to be confused looking at this. And anybody that was reading Archie that would go to this already knows if it's that or not and if they care. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not helping anybody that was looking at Archie. They've already gotten this. But it doesn't read like a reboot. So... what's going on at the beginning of this is just Robotnik has disappeared, and it's a big mystery as to where he's gone. And it's interestingly kind of like what we have with the Splintered Foot Clan, where his robots are you know, kind of vying for power and just, you know, in the background wreaking havoc, and not vying for power so much as just they don't know what to do with themselves, and so they're just endangering people, and so Sonic's just running around trying to help people. And most of this is about is kind of just reestablishing Sonic's personality and what he's all about, and his MO, and he could be going and helping Knuckles out with the underground, but that's boring, and he's not interested in that, and he just wants adventure, and so he's going to go help people and stuff, but he's not going to go do the desk job, boring part. And Amy shows up in the second issue and is kind of asking him to come back and help them, and he's like, yeah, you know I'm not going to do that, that's not what I do. And then he's got a fun adventure with Knuckles right after that, and then they introduce a new character in 4.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I forget her name right off. I read this a couple weeks ago, but she's fun. She's a skunk.
Oh.
And her name is... Oh, no, she's not a skunk. She's a lemur. It's Tangle the Lemur. And she and Sonic immediately have kind of a fun chemistry. And
she looks like a Sonic character.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's what a lemur looks like in the Sonic universe.
So importantly, we don't usually in the Sonic comics get you know a whole lot of really complex character dimension and growth. You'll have places that will be kind of heartfelt and where characters are able to come alive, but it's very much a cartoon show. And anyway, so Sonic is, you know, just kind of running around helping people after Robotnik leaves, and his robots are causing chaos. And then at the end, spoiler alert, but Robotnik has actually been kind of, you know, watching from inside a room somewhere the whole time, I guess, and I don't know what's going on with that.
It's weird that that's not a reboot or a wrap-up, because why else would they publish the first 4 issues weekly? I think because he was done with them, is the sense I get, and just to get people excited about it and to get it started. Yeah, because I thought this was originally, I thought this was supposed to be a mini-series, and then he was going to start back at #1 right after that. That does not seem to be what we're doing. Interesting.
So yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not like up enough on this. I don't usually read Sonic. I buy these for my kids, but this being you know, the new stuff on IDW, I was curious about it, so I went ahead and read it. So I'm a real novice with this stuff. I like it a lot because it's obviously more influenced by the Genesis games than anything, and it feels very side-scrollery, and it's the Sonic stuff I like. It's Mobius. It's the robots that are animals first, and all of that, and it's the
I've always appreciated it,
like cleaning up the environment stuff. There's always kind of an environmental tinge to early Sonic.
I've always appreciated it as just kind of like really solid kids comics that we don't
exactly.
get enough of.
Yeah,
like it's kind of at the top of the kids comic list.
No, it really is. It always has been.
And it always has been. Yeah.
What's kind of weird, and I guess I said that maybe they came out weekly because he was done with them. At the same time, I'm assuming he went for different artists every week because they were coming out weekly. That's a little jarring. Every issue looks totally different.
Although if it was just going to continue, Archie, I wish they would have just kept the numbering. What kid's going to notice?
I get that, but like
IDW
I said, I'm
Archie.
not completely sure that's exactly what we're doing. So I'm sure someone can tell me that. But anyway, but yeah, so Tracy Yardley draws the first one, the first issue, and I think that's probably the one I like the most. And there's one in particular that I was not a big fan of. Yeah, it's this one. It's the kind of, really standard, silly anime style with especially stuff we're doing with Amy's face.
Yeah.
Which I just don't really care for.
I wonder who this one is.
Nobody I knew right off.
Because the guy that does the covers, or at least does the cover for #1...
Yeah, and I don't think he does any of these.
He's the Mania guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you see he released like a short?
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. The Knuckles one is the coolest. Art.
Okay.
I think that's.
Oh, there it is. Adam Bryce Thomas is that one.
And Jennifer Hernandez drew this one. I don't know her from anything, but check out her Knuckles, man.
Ooh,
I just love him in the face.
Yeah.
That's classic Knuckles.
Yeah.
And look at the colors on that.
And Spaz didn't do any of these. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
He's the only Sonic artist I know, and that's because he drew Mega Man for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think...
I wish IDW would get Mega Man.
This one probably looks the most like him, maybe.
Like Spaz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this looks a bit spazzy.
I just like how thick her lines are.
Yeah. Evan Stanley.
But yeah, it's kind of just more the same. But, a real easy place to jump onto if you have not been reading that. So, what else did you want to talk about?
Alright, so I'm going to talk about the first 2 volumes of Seven to Eternity, which is written by Rick Remender. And Rick Remender's a madman who does like 5 series a month, and all of them are amazing.
He's nuts. Yeah.
So, Seven to Eternity is a fantasy series. It's kind of fantasy via the X-Men. So it's a kind of medieval setting. It's kind of a hodgepodge. It's not straight up traditional medieval. Like, the main character has a gun, and no one's like, what is that?
Okay.
But also his gun's kind of tied to his powers. So, like, it's a fantasy series. Like, it's just its own world. And in it, there's these people who are kind of like wizards, but also more like the X-Men. They're called Mozaks, which are people that each of them have like a special gift that they have to get trained in using. That's some kind of magic gift. And everyone's is different. And so Adam, I think it's Osiris. His last name is very hard for me to pronounce. Osiris, yeah. Because I want to say Osidius, and it's not. It's just Osiris. Adam Osiris. So he lives on a farm with his family, and you find out very quickly that the entire world is secretly run by someone called the Mud King, or the God of Whispers, and also his real name, which is also hard to say. It's like Garils. It's very hard to say. So the Mud King's is a Mozak, and his power is, if you make a deal with him, he can see through your eyes and sometimes take control of you. And he just kind of worked his way up making deals with people and offering people what they wanted until he secretly was in control of the majority of the people.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. This is a book about compromise.
And then, like, he keeps control of you forever?
Yeah. Yeah. And so...
What would be worth that?
It depends.
Okay.
Just different... Well, here's the thing. He's like, sometimes you're yourself, but he can always see through your eyes. Like, he's connected to everyone.
Oh, okay.
But he can... at least at points, take control of you. So it's not like...
So he's using everyone like surveillance.
Yes. And, like, it's kind of like... and, like, sometimes he can possess you. But you're not, like, always possessed.
Okay.
So, like, you live your life, and it seems relatively normal, except sometimes he's in control of your body. But he can always see and hear what you see and hear.
Wow.
Adam Osidis lives on a farm with his family, and we find out that his dad, while all of this was starting up, his dad was like, lines drawn here, no further kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they were kind of cast out by the other Mozaks and by society in general, because the Mud King made him look bad, like just made everyone believe. He seems to have a bit of control over people's perceptions. So, like, if he says these people are bad, everyone kind of thinks these people are bad. And so the entire family is kind of in hiding because everyone thinks that they're like these great traitors to the king. Adam's son is dying, and he's gonna go to the Mud King and make a deal. And he's going to get his son healed and his family left alone forever, just because the Mud King always keeps his word. So his deal is you protect my family and everyone stays away from them. The reason he's going to do this, and there's a whole thing with his dad, where his dad is, because the crux of this is about compromise, at least early on, where it's when is compromise okay, when is it compromising too, because all life is compromise. Everything you do is some kind of compromise.
Right, so just how far do you take that before
and how much do you bend before you break? And his dad was just a hard line, like you don't compromise.
He's Rorschach.
Yeah. I mean, not crazy, but
right.
like, at least in something like this. And so, he's betraying kind of everything his dad believes and instilled in him to go even speak to the Mud King. Because something we're told is, no one says no. Once you're offered, he knows what you want, no one says no. But he thinks he's got one up on the Mud King, because he's going to go and he's going to offer himself to protect his family. Because he's going to die. He has, like, cancer or something. And the Mud King's just going to get control of him for, like, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And what could be the harm in that?
Sure.
My family's going to be protected forever. I'm going to die in 3 months.
That seems like a fair trade.
I haven't compromised anything. But then he gets there and the Mud King's like, well, I can make you better. I can heal you.
Oh.
And at that moment...
Because he can give you anything you want.
Yes. Because even if it's not within his power, he has healers under his control that can come in and heal you.
Right. He's got so much power because of all the other talents he'd have.
Yes. So at that moment, basically the Magic X-Men show up and they get the king. And they're like, did you hear his offer? And he says no. And he's going to go with them on this journey. There's 7 of them. And they're going to go on this journey to this wizard because they can't kill him. If they kill him, everyone connected to him will die.
Sure.
So they have to go to this wizard to get that chain broken before they can kill him. And
that's clearly how you make the stakes work in that, right?
Yeah. And so on this journey, all of the issues where Adam is the POV character, because there's a couple where we kind of veer off with some other characters, but most of the issues open with journal entries by him. And it's gnawing at him that A, he's pretty sure he would have taken the deal, and B, he's still sitting there and he still can take the deal. Because who wants to die? In spite of everything, he doesn't want to die. And that's the first, 2 issues.
Yeah.
So the rest of it's kind of this journey, and a bunch of stuff happens. There's this point where Adam and the Mud King kind of get splintered off from the rest of the group. And that's the last issue of Volume 2, and there is an amazing conversation about compromise and evil and good in people, and it's that kind of age-old kind of philosophical discussion of, is anything not selfish? Isn't everything you do in service of yourself in some way? And, you kind of get glimpses of how the Mud King thinks, and then you get a whole issue where he's just explaining, this is how I view the world, and I'm not wrong because everyone's awful, and everyone's evil, and therefore, why does it matter if I'm manipulating people? I'm
just doing it to a greater extent than other people. If they had what I had, they'd do it too if they were smart enough.
And I'm just giving everyone what they want.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Mm-hmm. This is in the kind of like great science fiction-y kind of a thing, you could view this as an incredibly topical book.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe the most important thing being written today.
Allegory, yeah.
But you can also just view it as viewing human condition, and whether it's intentional or not, he is living in the world that we're living in, and so it's what he's thinking about. These are wonderful. It's Rick Remender and Jerome Opeña, who is the creative team from Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah.
Also, Fear Agent, which is also wonderful. I think the story will end in the next trade, because I want to say this goes to 9, and I think he said the first story is 13 issues. The only major complaint I have with this is there's a 2-issue fill-in arc. Not a fill-in arc story-wise, but it's a fill-in artist, and they are not good enough.
Oh, that's rough.
It looks like... So this is a real weird... I mean, you can kind of flip through that. This is a real weird, like, out there kind of... big weird book, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like it makes me not want to settle. So we get these 2 issues,
Yeah,
and
it's like a sci-fi kind of opera that also looks a little sword and sorcery-esque.
yeah, it's like Dune and Lord of the Rings had a baby.
Sure.
And so when we get to the 2 issues that's drawn by another artist, I'm like, if I was reading a different book,
You only get a page like that from people that love and used to work at Marvel.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. If I was reading a book that was by that artist, I would kind of view it as, well, that's as good as I'm gonna get, because I do like this big weird mind expanding stuff, and like most of the time whenever I see it, it's by artists like this who I don't love, but the only people giving me this weird stuff. And reading this stuff by Jerome Opeña and then going to this artist, I'm like, oh no, screw you. Like, I don't want to settle for this.
did he do that entire trade?
Except, no, he just did 2 issues.
Oh, I see.
So this is 5 to 9, so he doesn't do, I think it's 6
Just
and
the way
7.
you were flipping through that, the way
Yeah.
you were talking, I was like, oh, did he do a bunch of issues in a row?
He did 2 issues in a row, and it's not as good as Jerome Opeña, which is a tall order.
Sure.
But, my only other...
But with a creator-owned book like that, and with it being finite, only having so many issues, you just let it come out late. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate saying that because we complain a lot about things that are too late, and it's easy to immediately jump to, well, you're not being very professional. But at the same time, you can take months off if you need to, and just tell people like this comes out at this time, and make it look like it's on purpose, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that like the Brian K. Vaughan thing.
Because you're effectively, and like this more so because this is shorter than a lot of his stuff. Like, because didn't you say it's only one more trade?
For this arc.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This first story is going to be like 13 issues. But he
I
might
didn't
keep
know it
going.
keeps going.
He might
Okay.
also just stop, because that's what he did with Tokyo Ghost. Like, Tokyo Ghost was supposed to be an ongoing.
Which I wanna
They got
finish.
to 12, and they were like, well, that's a good ending point. Maybe we'll come back to it later, but for now, that's the end.
That's the thing we've got to do at some point.
Yeah.
'Cause
And you got
I read
both
the
those
first
trades.
issue and was just blown away by it.
And I love everything Remender's ever done. The only other complaint I have about this is there's a Spawn alternate cover.
Oh, that's weird.
Yep.
That's really weird. Why? Because it's Image.
Yeah, because it's Image. I think it says it's like Spawn variant month or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. It's weird.
So Image usually pulls out all the stops with the first volume of one of their books. I will always go to Sex, Joe Casey's book Sex, which has 9 issues, and it's like $10.
Yeah. Right.
Image volumes, usually what they do is they hook you with a real thick first trade that's real affordable. Like, it's like a loss leader, right? And then the rest of them are more normally priced, but you're hooked. Which is why I have a lot of first volumes of Image things and nothing else.
Sure.
This one, it's only $10, but
You
it's
don't
only
get enough
4
in it?
issues.
Yeah.
The first issue is double-sized, but still, that's only 5 issues. Like, usually Image, you're for sure getting like 6 to 8 issues in the first trade.
That's fair. Have they changed that?
I don't
Is
think
it just
so.
that book, or is that
I
what
think
they're
it's
doing
just
now?
this book.
Okay.
But I don't know. And 2's 5 to 9. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So that was a little disappointing, and it's $17. Like, this is what this normally would cost. They didn't add anything extra to it. But it's wonderful. Everyone, if you like fantasy And if you, like me, have this issue of there not being good fantasy comics, this isn't exactly straight up like sword and sorcery knights and so. I mean, there are swords and there are things like that, but like, it's not a cookie cutter. It's not Tolkien, right?
Sure.
It's its own thing. But if you like fantasy, you should read it. If you like westerns, you should read it. I would say if you like science fiction, you should read it. But if you like science fiction, everything else Recommender does is science fiction. Like, go read that stuff.
But it looks like a blend of a bunch of different things. Like, there's a lot of what looks like Cosmic Marvel in that.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of sniffing out some He-Man. Like,
yeah. It's really cool. I recommend it to everyone. It's also, I think,
I don't like sword and sorcery,
really, really
but
important.
that sounds like a really interesting premise. I would probably read that.
And Adam's power is he can summon the spirits of like those connected to him, but he has to get their blood. And so like when his brother dies, he puts some of his blood into like a bullet, which they call a nail. He loads it in his gun, and he shoots their spirit. And near the end of the book, he shoots his dad's spirit to fight somebody, and the Mud King is there, and the Mud King's like, yeah. By the way, your son heard my offer, and like his dad just leaves him. Like the ghost of his dad's just like, well, you're not really my son anymore, and then just leaves. It's really cool. It's really good. It's great. Highly recommend 7 to Eternity.
So the last thing I'm going to talk about today on the Vault is Venomverse. I finally got around to reading this, Eric, and
I assume also very heady and topical. And
it sure is, man. I just I'm not even ready to talk about this. It's so complex. No, it's not.
All about the human condition and.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it has those token moments where it just kind of sneaks that stuff in real quick, and then gets past it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. This is really just about...
You know how we all have symbiotes inside of us?
It's really just about a bunch of people with venom symbiotes fighting an alien race that wants to take them all over. It's basically Animorphs in Venom, really. You have these kind of Yerkish creatures that are taking over Venoms. So this is a 5-issue miniseries event that came out last year. Not like the big Marvel event for that season or whatever, but this came out last year. They've been doing a bunch more Venom stuff after
Venomized is the one that just currently wrapped.
Venomized just wrapped. Right before that, there was, I forget the name of it, there's one that had like an Alpha and Omega and ran between a bunch of books. That's what that was.
We just got that trade at work. I was like, that's not going to sell.
I've got some of that, because I collect Venom. There are a couple books that ran through that I don't have, so I'll probably get those eventually. But anyway, but I had been kind of putting this off because I reviewed the lead-in to this, which was also 5 issues. There were a bunch of one-shots that established a lot of the characters that you follow in this and didn't give you really anything that matters for this except just giving us their kind of token character traits. Each character has like a singular token character trait that we'll use for like just like one moment where we go, oh yeah, that's right, that's what motivates this character, and it's real obligatory.
They're the greedy one.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, this is just about having an excuse to put a bunch of characters in Venom costumes and fight a lot, and it didn't really even need to be 5 issues. And it's Cullen Bunn, doing, I guess, his best to make this fun, but it doesn't really feel like he wants to be here, and it's just built on a premise that's not that interesting in the first place. That's my whole thing, because it feels really obligatory, right? It's like, we like to continue to pretend at Marvel like Venom is as popular as Spider-Man. And I'm not saying we do this with everything with Spider-Man.
You say continue, it's like we forgot about Venom for like a decade.
Yeah.
And then now we just will not stop.
That's because Remender's Venom was so popular.
That's true.
And so we just... And because the first arc of the new one was also really popular and was pretty good, and we were able to take him back to the streets and make it interesting and finally do the Lethal Protector thing right. And Marvel just went gung-ho with that and lost all the quality control, and it just became kind of, Arrow Season 3, with Venom, where it's like, oh, so they'll just eat up anything we throw at them. No, it was because Venom it was finally about something, and I was invested, and it meant something. It was poignant.
And this is kind of what kills that book, right?
Really entertaining, and I don't know if it kills it, but it happens right around when that is going on. Yeah,
because I thought I had to like tread water because this was happening or something. I'm trying to remember now.
I don't know. I think it was already kind of falling off when this came out. Because I mean, you know, we had like I said, we had that lead in right before. Although I guess that was weekly. And I don't remember if this came out monthly or if it was also a weekly thing.
Yeah,
I think it probably was just monthly. But I mean, I was stacking these up and not reading them. Anyway, so you know how I said that each character kind of has their just big prevailing character trait, and obviously a lot of it is vengeance, and part of it too is everybody is also sort of the same too, because they're all Venom. So it's like it's just the lethal protector thing. It's just, yeah, we kill people and yeah, we kind of enjoy it, but we all have a line, we all have a code, and maybe they draw the line in slightly different places. Like maybe Rocket Raccoon Venom is a little bit more violent and will go to further places than Captain America Venom, but Captain America Venom is still Venom. Like he's not, you know, stalwart, does no wrong Captain America. He's still Venom. The problem with everybody being too close to the same or having that one token prevailing character trait, and that's, I hesitate saying that because some folks might say, well, but Cap, you review things all the time where you talk about like this one driving force that's really interesting for a character. Yeah, like when the book is actually like about, or when the story is actually about that thing that drives them and doesn't just feel like a token reason to have them there. We're pretending like we're telling a story, but really it's just a bunch of fights that happen. Mm-hmm. And that's more this. Everything about this feels like it's just kind of an obligatory premise. The big problem with the singular prevailing character traits is, but it's a symbiote and a character merged to make another character, and it never feels like that.
Do they all call themselves Venom?
Most of them. And, or I don't know, I think they have, I can't remember, I think when they're talking to each other, they're kind of just the characters, they are like, Captain America Venom's just Cap, like I don't think they call each other that way, you know, but the bigger issue is, none of them says we are anything, you know, like they're all singular eyes, and we go back and forth with that a lot in Venom books, right, but I don't know what's interesting about putting, for instance, like I said, Rocket Raccoon or Black Panther in a Venom suit, except for the aesthetic of it. We also were pretty arbitrary about which characters got one-shots that we gave backstories and fleshed out, because for the most part, except for maybe X-23, who was kind of the most interesting of those, there were a couple one-shots that I like better than others, and that was one of them with the Venomverse lead-in thing. But a little arbitrary, the ones that we gave those to versus the ones that we didn't. Like, there's a Peter Parker Venom in here that they treat as pretty important. It's wearing what looks like kind of an anti-Venom costume for some reason, and he doesn't get one of those. I don't know why. Black Panther Venom doesn't get one. I wish he did. That might have been really interesting. Or maybe not, I don't know. But it's annoying because at the end of the day, they're just all, you know, kind of the characters that you know that are slightly edgier because they have Venom costumes. And what would be more interesting in giving them all Venom suits is, you know, how the symbiote changes them and what the, you know, new character is based on that. But because they're all from different dimensions, you also have to consider that the symbiote wouldn't necessarily be exactly the same person that it was when it first got them, and that all just sounds too involved to do in a 5-issue series that you're pretty much just doing because, let's face it, there was a popular thing called Spider-Verse, and let's do that with Venom. So when I say this is built on a faulty premise, Spider-Verse was also. Spider-Verse was this thing where we said, well, let's try to prove how Spider-Man is so versatile that he's like Batman, you can do him in a bunch of different ways. You and I have always talked about how that's not really true with Spider-Man. Well, now we're not even trying to do that with Venom, really. We just throw a bunch of people in Venom suits and put them in a book. And it's annoying because since it's Venomverse, it's got to be an interdimensional thing. And what this alien species wants, they could really get by going to a planet of symbiotes.
Which exists.
Yeah, and if Venom is in all these different dimensions, it could go to a bunch of Planet of Symbiotes. But the reason it doesn't is because they feed on. I mean, it's really contrived, right? They're called poisons, and they're these little dinky, like white alien things that are kind of nothing on their own. But if they possess a symbiote already merged with a human, then they have a host now. Right. Then they have a host now, and they feed on that really well, and they're doing this to survive, but they're also like getting obsessed with power, and so the whole idea is supposed to be the kind of like villain who is bullied and becomes kind of the ultimate bully because of that. And so it's supposed to be like the little guy that the bully creates a monster out of. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of takes over the ultimate bully in Venom, I guess, and then becomes a lot scarier itself. And first of all, it's just weird to imagine how it even figured out it could do that. That's a thing. But like I said, the whole thing is just so super contrived that we say, okay, it's going to take over already merged people, and for some reason it thinks that it consolidates those two beings better and kind of homogenizes them, kind of makes them more harmonious, I guess. And that whole thing is just really weird. I don't know how it knows it. I don't know how it would even think to do that, in the first place. And it's all just so that we can do the same thing we did with Spider-Man with Venomverse, because Spider-Verse was about beings that go and hunt Spider-Mans. We've got to do the same thing with Venom. Well, how about a different premise? Like,
at least with Spider-Man, there are other versions of Spider-Man prior to that, right?
You
have 2099, you've got 1402.
With Venom, with
you need to make them all.
1602, but with Venom, it's a little bit. You really just have that in What If comics.
Yeah. Is Deadpool Venom in there?
Yeah, naturally. It's Buns, of course. He's gonna go there. But I mean, I think he's having a little bit of fun with it. But it feels like a pretty obligatory thing on his part, where he's like, it feels very assigned.
Does Venom ever show up in this? Just in any Venom comic you've ever read.
I also meant to say, it's difficult to tell sometimes which characters come from 616 and which don't.
Oh.
That was the thing I had with it. Maybe on a second read I wouldn't have that, but just kind of a casual read. There was no other way to read this but casually, right?
In this or any Venom comic you've read recently,
I
just thought of this while you're talking about Venom and saying we. Has Venom ever shown up and said we would like to play?
I don't think so.
He should.
He should.
He should show up with a Wiimote and a nunchuck and say, "We would like to play."
That's great. I can't really recommend this. Carnage is kind of fun in this.
Does he get a Venom?
He doesn't, because for whatever reason the poisons are kind of afraid to take him over because he's foreign and they haven't dealt with him before, and so the Venoms kind of use him to fight them.
So wait, they only know it works with Venom? Specifically Venom? Not even symbiotes, just Venom?
Yep.
How did they figure that
out? Because they tried it once, I guess. And they keep talking about it like it's just symbiotes, and to be fair, Carnage is a different kind of symbiote. You know what I mean? He's the first of his kind.
Is he?
He was like, I mean, think about it. He was, an offshoot of Venom. He's kind of a different thing.
But I thought all symbiotes just reproduce asexually, and that's how.
I'm honestly not sure if that's true with the whole Planet of the Symbiotes thing. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know anything.
The symbiote mythology is real convoluted. And I'm sure at this point we've retconned certain things so that if I read everything, it makes sense now.
Well, he's also like part of the was it Chthon or whatever? He's the vessel of Chthon. You remember that in the Carnage? You didn't even read that part, did you?
No, I didn't.
Book?
I didn't. No, I did not. But
he's the vessel of Cthulhu.
Yeah, no, I remember that now. Yeah, because he's got to go after the magic book and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but the other thing I meant to say is another thing you got to consider is that Venom is inherently, according to the Darkhold, according to recent Venom mythology, set up in Space Knight, Venom is inherently a benevolent creature, and so he wouldn't necessarily be like angry or volatile or close to, you know, evil. I mean, he's not evil, but you know what I mean. With everybody he went with, and it's really silly that every single version of him is like that. Why are they all like that? And it would be interesting to say, like, well, he's like, you know, always he's destined to be that way, or it's a not destiny, but you know, he's naturally that way for some reason. Like in like the one constant with Venom in every universe is that he's different from all the other symbiotes. That'd be interesting. We don't do anything with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this is not great. It doesn't stick with me. It's pretty darn throwaway. I don't know why I talked about it this long. Everybody, thanks as always for watching the Comic Vault. We sure appreciate it. Eric and I are going to move on now with the Omnibus to our next segment. We're going to do just a little bit of Primetime Crisis. We don't have a ton to talk about today with that. And then we just have a couple more segments of reviews before we get to news. So stick with us. Lots more to come. And if you are watching the playlist, just let it run, and you'll get to the next segment. Thanks for watching, everybody. We sure appreciate you tuning in to the Comic Vault, and we'll be back after this break.